Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me this evening is a phenomenal woman that I had the opportunity to recently connect with across social media lines. She is an award winning TV film producer, a motivational speaker, actor, but most importantly, she's a woman of God, and she's taking out time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of her journey, a little bit of her story with the hopes of encouraging and inspiring and uplifting others, especially as it deals with the challenges that are faced with the storms of life and what all that entails. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you our special guest this evening. And Cortina, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. What an honor and privilege it is to be on your show. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to share.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into our segments this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give our audience a taste of who is Cortina Jackson.
Thank you. You did such an introduction. I appreciate that. But yes, I'm a TV and film producer. I wrote, directed, produced my first film, which is called Daddy, and I'm a contributing writer on two others. I'm also an author. I'm an actress, a voice actor, an international speaker, and I'm also an advocate against domestic violence and sexual abuse. So,
Wow.
yes, I do a broad spectrum of many, many things. I've also been in law enforcement. I was in criminal justice for over 20 years, police officer before, uh, correctional officer, probation, parole. And so a lot of times people see this in the writing that I do. A lot of those elements are there because I've had a background in criminal justice.
Great, great. Well, as you can see, to our listeners, we have a guest here who's worn many hats, with many talents, many gifts, and so I'm super excited. I know you're going to have a powerful story to share with us this evening, and I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to just go ahead and jump right on into this and find out more about you. So, Cortina, when I bring people on the show, one of the things that I always want to make sure that I do is take a few moments to reflect back as we think about the journey, reflect back on the beginnings of where it all starts, because I am truly a firm believer that even as far back as childhood, that there are certain people that we meet, certain events that we encounter, and such that while it may not always make sense at that time at such an early age, as you get older, as you begin to gain more experiences, and of course, ultimately, as you begin to understand what your actual purpose in life is all about, suddenly those moments begin to come to memory and you start to connect the dots. It starts to come together as to, okay, that's why I had to go through what I went through. This is why I met who I met and the things that happened. It was nothing that was by accident or by chance. This was all by divine design to get me to the point that I am now, to walk in the purpose, walk in the gifts that God has bestowed upon me. So with that said, if you would, take us back to the beginnings. To your early days growing up, and tell us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any challenges that come to mind, you can share that as well. Kind of give us a backdrop of where your story begins.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in a part of Texas. It's Lubbock, Texas. It's a college town, and at that time, I stayed. I had a very large family, so everybody's very close in my family. Aunts, uncles. My grandmother had six sons, six daughters, and so I had lots of aunts and uncles. And we were born in the church. As a matter of fact, it was the Church of God in Christ. And so I was in the church where you do the shouting and the speaking in tongues, and you're just rolling in the floor. I had a um, very deep upbringing in church, and my grandmother was the mother of the church, and we were brought up in Christian values. We were very close. As a matter of fact, we were so close that growing up, I didn't have friends per se outside of school because all of my cousins were my friends. And I was kind of the oldest girl, and all boys. At that time, it was all boys. I was the only girl as far as all the cousins went. And so it was kind of my responsibility to take care of everybody. I took on kind of the mother role at the early age to care for everyone because all of our parents worked. They worked 2 or 3 jobs. We all stayed with grandmother during the day, and so my upbringing was very, very close and very much in godly principles. We didn't hear cursing. We didn't hear everything. We went Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday all day, Sunday afternoon, just in church. And some of my fondest memories is that my mom, everybody in our family, aunts, uncles, many of them are pastors. The men and the women had some role. We all played instruments. So I played the drums, and my brother plays the keyboard, and my sister sings, and all of my cousins can play the drums. Everybody can play an instrument or sing or some type of talent because we couldn't just sit in church. And we tried to pinch and laugh and play, but they put us to work. So we didn't get to do that. But some of my fondest memories is with my mom. It's me at the time, me, my brother, and my sister. My brother's a year younger than me, and then we had a baby sister. And everything we did with my mother. She didn't let us go out a lot with other people, but she did a very wonderful job of keeping us entertained. So on the weekend, we would, I'm going to age myself, but we would go to Blockbuster Video or some video store. She would let us all pick a movie. And she would go buy these little boxes of candy. It would be like lemon heads or Boston baked beans. They were little candy boxes. They were 10. And we didn't realize at the time that we were poor. I never once thought of ourselves as poor because now I know, like, wow, she bought 10 cents boxes of candy and the movies were $1. We always felt entertained. And so I was very grateful. But so those memories of birthday parties and playing with the cousins and everybody was so close were very fun memories. And because we were in the church, those were just wonderful times. But there were some things about that upbringing that became it led down a path that Satan doesn't. When we're in church, Satan doesn't leave you alone because you're in church. That's exactly where he comes. He comes down your row, and he did in my life, unfortunately. And that in some of those instances, because we all would go to my grandmother's a great deal. My grandmother was very heavy set. She was just a very large woman, about 400 pounds. She would sit in a recliner. And since I was the girl and I was surrounded by all boys, I did the cleaning and I was, entertaining them and taking them outside, and we're playing and so during those times of grandmother, uh, a lot of times she couldn't care for all of us. It was just a ton of kids. We would go to my aunt's house, older aunt, and she had a son. She had 2 sons and a daughter. And at that time, molestation happened. And because I was the youngest, I'm sorry, the oldest girl and the only girl, it would happen in a way that I always have this smile. This smile is bright. I've had it since I was born. They said I smiled all the time. And so I just remember one day I was standing on the porch and watching all my male cousins playing and throwing rocks, and I was standing, and I would remember being called into the house. And I would turn my back and go in the house and where I was being molested. And when I would return, I was very, very, very confused, but I would pull myself together. And when I would get back on that porch, they would all look at me and they would say, "Tina, where you been, Tina?" And I would quickly get into character. I'm an actress now. Back then, I think I knew how to get into character. And so I would put on a big smile again. Hey, who wants to play frisbee? Who wants to play too? And I would run out and play and entertain them. And I learned how to do that at a young age, 7. and learning how to put on a mask, um, and just put on just this happy face to make sure that everyone felt comfortable. And I would just else that hurt, but I didn't want anybody else to be hurt. And so, wonderful memories with them, but that was the dark spot, know, during that time.
Wow, wow. Well, let me first off say that I thank you for your transparency so early on in the sharing of your story. I can only imagine what that must have been like for you, and as you said, to be able, kind of put on the mask, put on, come into the role, so to speak, because. And it actually speaks volumes about you to be going through what you were going through, it being confusing, it clearly not being right, but then at the same time, there was that part of you that was still concerned about not bringing down the vibe or the energy of everybody else. And so
Yes.
let me pull it together. Let me be the strong one here, and not only not let people know what's going on, but to, again, to not put a damper on what was otherwise, fun times and exciting times to be amongst family and such, the way that you were in such a large setting as you were. So I applaud you for being able to be strong at such a young age. But then at the same time, it's definitely something that is unfortunately a thing that happens to a lot of young
Yeah.
ladies, and maybe even some who tune into this episode that have gone through that and have had to put on that mask because they didn't, worried about what other people might think or who might get in trouble or things
Yeah.
like that. And so, but again, even with such a traumatic thing that you had to go through at an early age, when I think about the works that you do today, there's a part of that experience, there's a part of that journey that you had to go through, not because God didn't love you, not because you weren't worthy of
Yeah.
deserving of better treatment, but you know there are things in life that we encounter that sometimes it's a natural thing that we walk into that we create for ourselves, and then there's other times that it's specifically designed by God for you to go through, not because of you, but because of how he's equipping you to pour into somebody else later on down the road. Somebody else that may
Yes.
gone through a similar situation that you have not met yet, that you don't know yet at that young age, but you were going to someday meet. Somebody that was going to someday pick up your book. Somebody was someday going to hear you speak, and you're going to be drawing from experiences of the past, some that were wonderful and bright and fun, others not so, but they all were necessary in order to get you to that point of preparation for the gift that he had placed inside of you, the purpose that he intended for you to walk into later on in life once you were prepared and equipped to do so. So this again is
Yes.
why I like to take this opportunity, not so much to dig up, the not so fun parts of the past, but understanding that both the good and the not so good are all necessary, and it's by design, by God's design, for you to walk through that, and for our listeners, understanding that you know it's not always just about you. It's
Right.
not about, kind of, because it's real easy for us in our fleshly moments to step into the victim role and why me, and and blaming ourselves or whatever. And there are just some times in life that it had nothing to do with any of those things. It was God
Yeah.
was preparing you for a greater purpose. And so
Yes.
we all have that thing that we have to go through, that we all have that encounter. Some of us have already had it happen. Some of us are going through it right now, and some of us, it's coming.
Right.
Your storm will
Right.
happen. It's not a matter of if, but
Yes.
when. But understanding the underlying purpose behind it and how God uses those moments is really critical. So you being in a,
Yeah.
in a setting where you were in the church, and and being exposed to God at a very early age, I think all of those things play a critical role in your
Yeah.
strength, as well as in your ability, again, to be able to be equipped to pour into the lives of others. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank
So
you.
Cortina, obviously you had again, for the most part, overall, a phenomenal childhood. Obviously, we have the blemish of the molestation that you had to deal with, and I'm not in any way watering that down or minimizing it. But as you know, once you enter into adulthood, the experiences still continue to come.
Right.
Some good, some challenging. But if you live long enough, the reality is that there's going to be a point in life where you get hit with something that, while you were really good at it at a young age, putting on the mask and keeping the smile on your face,
Mm,
you eventually hit a point, hit a storm in life where it gut punch you in a way that you
right,
can't you can't cover that up, at least, or you can't do it as well as you used to be able to do it, or you're accustomed to doing it. You get hit with something that,
right.
money can't fix it, a phone call can't fix it, a hookup can't fix it. It's just you and that storm, and you might find yourself facing a sense of hopelessness, like, how am I going to get through this? This is really
Right.
bigger and heavier than anything that I've ever experienced before. I don't know what to do with it. All I know is that I'm here, and I feel stuck and alone, perhaps.
Yes.
So, with that said, tell us a time that's exactly where you found yourself at, that you were going through a storm in life that
Yeah.
had you feeling these very same emotions that I'm talking about. That how am I going to get out of this? Nowhere to turn, nowhere to go. It's just me in this storm, and I don't know what to do with it, why it's happening, but here I am. Thank God, of course, that you're here today to be able to even talk about it. So I'm trusting that
Yes.
God did openly make a way, but perhaps in the beginning you weren't so sure if that was going to happen. So, with that said,
Right.
walk us through what that experience was like for you, and what was ultimately the turning point when you began to see some light at the end of the
Yes.
tunnel and coming out of that.
Well, after as I grew up, the mask that I wore served it served a purpose, good and bad, and in my mind. So I wore that. I was molested at that time from 7 to about 15, and learning to my mother asked me. I think she she always knew. They were prayerful, so she knew. But I was again afraid that it would hurt her feelings. That's how I knew to think that way. That if I told her the truth, it would hurt her feelings. And the person that molested me did say, if you ever say anything, they're going to take me away. They're going to say it's your fault. The whole family, will be against you. And so I kept that. The thing I said about growing up and us being such a close family, we were huggers. I'm still to this day. I'm a big time hugger. If I see someone, I'll bring it in. And so we were always taught to hug and acknowledge when adults came into the room. We acknowledged them, and then so in keeping up with that, I began to retreat. When I would see my molester walk into a room, or we would uh, get to their house, I wouldn't speak. I would or I would be mean. Like if I had to go near him, I would pinch him or do something. And one day I was caught pinching him, and my aunt, his mother, got on to me and said, "Tina, you go over there and apologize to him and give him a hug." Oh, they notice you're not hugging him. You get over there and hug your cousin. You know better. And I would go over and hug him, and I think I got a whooping for being mean and pinching him. But and then I was asked. My mom asked me, and I was so good at convincing. I said, "No, ma'am. Tina, has anyone been bothering with you?" Or I said, "Oh, no, ma'am. No, ma'am." She said, "You would tell me, right?" "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. No, that's not happened." And so I carried that. And as wearing that mask into adulthood, I became it was great. I thought it hid things. I thought, I was pretty good at putting on. But I became a people pleaser. It went too far, and that I began to be a people pleaser. It was important that I protected other people's feelings and what they thought, and I wondered what people thought of me. I became a perfectionist. In ways it served me good because I never thought that what I did was enough, and so it led to me getting a degree and another degree and another degree and writing a book and doing things that I thought would make me feel better, but there was always it was never enough to me. I just didn't feel like it was ever enough. And so in growing up, even in high school, I wasn't ever picked um, by guys. It felt like I was invisible. All the other girls, the boys, they were flirting with them, and I remember I played basketball, and we all got on the bus, and the girls and the boys shared the bus that night, and the lights went out on the bus. We were sitting in the bus. There was no coaches. I don't know why we were on this bus. This always stands out to me. But we were on this bus, and the lights were out, and I could see all the guys creeping around to the girls, and I could hear them, they were messing around. And I sat in my seat because I was like, uh-oh. And no one ever came. I could hear everybody else, like, you know, and it kind of made me sad, like, well, nobody picked me. Nobody wanted me. And I got this complex. Wow. Even in school, I wasn't, I was an athlete, I was involved in all kind of things. And I thought, I I feel invisible. I don't feel pretty. I don't Do guys think I'm ugly? Maybe I'm fat. Maybe I didn't know what it was. I'm never picked. And so when a guy did finally approach me, I was just like all in, like, I'm never picked. So, wow, it just felt great for somebody to like me. And he would turn out to be my first abusive marriage. I ended up marrying him. We dated all through junior high and high school. I was very loyal because I was just happy to have somebody who liked me and who picked me. And I ended up getting pregnant, and I was just so happy. Most girls are terrified, but I was happy because I thought, not only am I picked, but I'm going to have a child who loves me. And I just thought it was just the neatest thing. And I ended up marrying him, and he ended up being, I married him. We ended up having two children. And he began to change. He began to have extramarital affairs, and then he was abusive. He was abusive to my children. I went away for training. I was going to be a correctional officer. When I left, I left him in his care, and my mom sent me pictures of their little behinds that were black and blue, and I was just when I came back from training and confronted him, he began to abuse me. We actually had a fight, and at that time, it was the one and only fight. I said, "You will never hit me or my children again," and I divorced him almost immediately. Immediately, I filed for a divorce. Time went on, and it was me and my sons, and I love being a mom. I love kids. It was just going to be me and my fellas, but I began to see sadness in them because they wanted, as they were growing up, other boys were joining the Boy Scouts and these different things with their dads. And my younger one said, "Mom, we want to join the Boy Scouts, but we can't because we have to have a dad." I said, "You can join the Boy Scouts, and I'll be with you." And they were just sad, "We don't have a dad." And so I was content with it just being me and the Lord and my sons. But for them, I said, I'm going to put myself out there and start dating. And I was going through this healing process, and I was sold out to God. God, it's me and you. I'm ready to, my life belongs to you and you only. And I met a man. I was working then at the prison. I was a correctional officer then, so it was hard to date. Find. So I joined this dating site, and on my site, I put, I'm a Christian. I'm Church of God in Christ. I have two sons, and there was a man that I met on this dating site. He had a son, small son. Said, "Hey, me too." Everything I put, "Me too." I was like, "Thank you, Lord." I said, "But God, if this person's not for me, I want nothing to do with it." Well, all things, it moved very quickly because he was um, everything that I thought he would be. So I was telling my mom, Lord, you know, it's a spoiler alert, but in my movie, you'll see this moment. This moment is in the movie. My mom is actually in my movie. And so we had this moment, and she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, I kind of, she's, always praying for me. And I said, Mom, no one has ever picked me. Finally, somebody wants me. And it was always that, that feeling that no one has ever wanted me. No one's ever picked me. And he chose me, Mom. Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure because I'm sold out to God. And if God didn't say, then, this wouldn't be. And I married him. Oh gosh, we were only dating really with maybe for 5 months at best, and we got married. And this would be the worst mistake of my life. Um, and hopefully at the end we'll get to where um, I almost lost my life in this situation. And so that was the moment, all of that. That was the moment that my mask, it no longer served me. The mask was there to make sure that people thought I was happy and inside I was dying. But what I learned that is that with that mask on, it didn't matter the mask. When vultures, the scavengers, when they smell death, they go after what is dying. And because I was dying inside, it didn't matter what I looked like, it didn't matter my smile. When there's a predator, when there is an abuser, when there's a narcissist, when they're looking for someone, they smell death. They smell fear, and they become everything you need them to be. And so I didn't know that at first, but all the questions and all the, hey, yeah, me too. I do this too. He was aligning himself with me and listening to the things I said and became everything that he thought I wanted to hear. And and so the mask no longer served me because when you're dying, and anyone who is in tune to that smells it all over you, and you become the victim. And so I wore the clown mask, and now I was the prisoner. I was the prisoner. Like I said, I was a police officer, I was a correctional officer, did all this stuff in law enforcement, but to protect others. But now I'm the prisoner.
Mm. Wow. Again, uh, thank you for your transparency and sharing what you have shared thus far about your journey. And I'm just, as you're telling this story, I'm piecing it all together because again, I go back to the beginning. Here you were, you start off as a child getting attention that you did not want, an unhealthy attention. You start to get older, and as a lot of young men, young girls, young girls growing up, you eventually you start the hormones kick in, and you start wanting the attention. Now I want attention, but then I'm not getting it. So then, after being starved of that attention for so long, the first person that says, "Ooh, you cute," or whatever it was that they said or did that made you feel special like never before, you naturally just gravitated to it and went all in because it was like I was thirsting for this, I was starving for this, and finally somebody, as you said, somebody chose me. Then you have this first round of marriage. Sure, it produced two beautiful sons, I'm sure, but the trade off was you again had to deal with an abusive situation. Fortunately for you, you got out of that thing right away, recognizing the unhealthiness it was for you and for your children. Smart move. Lesson to any of our ladies that are listening:
Yes.
don't don't play with that. When
Right.
people show you who they are,
Believe them.
if this is not about not being a forgiving person or
Yeah.
or giving people a second. There's certain things that even as believers, there's certain things that you just don't stand for. That's where the boundaries kick in. So I
Right.
appreciate you highlighting that. And then Here you are, like you said, committed to the Lord, being a mom, raising my boys, doing my thing. But then you hear the cries of your son saying, you know, basically, I sure wish we had a dad,
You're
because
right.
there's certain things that, that little boys like to do. And when you don't have that father figure around, it just, even if mom is willing to do it with you, not that mom isn't capable of doing some of those
Yeah.
things, but there's just some stuff that just, it's it's bigger than mom.
Right.
It just needs a dad or a dad like figure to
Right.
step in because the experience is just different. We know you mean well, mom. No
Right.
offense, but this is a dad son thing, and
Yes.
so you take a chance, you take a leap. Let me put myself out there, and then and this is where it really gets deep. It's like,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you focused on this about how if you're not careful in terms of your discernment
Yes.
and playing out, how people that you meet, really taking the time to get to know them and not just getting
Yes.
caught up in the surface of things, because as you so eloquently stated, and this is a spiritual moment here, when the enemy is coming for you, one of the masteries, if you will, that the enemy possesses is to say, to look, to behave in
Mm.
all the ways that he knows that you like. The
Yes.
enemy knows us better than we know ourselves. Our
Yes.
likes, our dislikes, the shapes, the curves, the sound of the voice, the texture of the hair, all of that. He,
Oh,
he
yes.
knows, and he will dangle that in your face.
Mm.
And if you're not careful, you let your guard down. If you don't allow that discernment to kick in, if you don't speak to God about it, run that by Him, you know,
Right.
um, you will get caught up, and
Yes.
you might find yourself walking into a situation that, while it looks good on the surface, there's an underlying presence to it, and it may, because every morning when I'm having my time of prayer, that's one of the things that I talk about in my prayer to God is,
Mm.
or I should say, I thank God for, is for those individuals and those opportunities that He blocks, because
Yes.
sometimes there's some pitfalls and some landmines that have been strategically placed for me that I don't see, because I'm
Mm.
caught up in what looks on the surface of it, but there's behind that pretty face, that pretty smile, that phenomenal opportunity, that great moment that you just can't pass up. Behind all of that is some mess and some stuff that he can
Yeah.
see that we don't know about. So he sometimes, because he recognizes it, he can step in and say, you don't want this. I know it looks one way, but it's not
Right.
what it is. But again, if we're caught up in our feelings and our emotions, and even to you saying that your mom asked you, because it immediately made me think about my mom, and at times when I've allowed myself to get caught up, particularly in relationships, get caught up in the
Mm-hmm.
thinking, oh yeah, she's it, she's the one, that kind of
Right.
thing, and those words, are you sure?
Mm.
Whether it was, are you sure, or she's cool, but
But
she's not
not
the
the one.
she's not,
Exactly.
and you don't want to hear that. You
Right.
just, well, I know that this is right because it isn't. She's
Mm.
nice. I'm not saying she's not nice. I'm not saying he's not nice,
Uh,
but and I think that's just a motherly instinct
yes.
that God talks through to that mom to kind of, especially if you got a good relationship, as clearly you did with your
Yes.
mom, kind of speaks to moms to speak to you to say, you sure? I don't know, because you
Goodness.
pretty much know when you have somebody like that in your life, if they're all in and believing that you are, on point with this, then they're not
Yes.
gonna sugarcoat. They're gonna be like, yeah, yeah. They're gonna be maybe more excited than you are about it. But if they're kind of
Right.
hesitant, that's the little cue that you might want to
That's
just,
it.
But
Listen.
again, that's part of growing up. Even as a
That's
young
true.
adult, sometimes we got to bump that head to find out for sure. In your case, unfortunately, that may be more of a literal thing in the sense that here you then
Yes.
walked yourself into another abusive situation.
Yes.
Unfortunately, which again, we don't wish that on even our worst enemy, but nevertheless, here you were. So with that said, I'm piecing. And I guess the last part I'll say to this is when you spoke about you felt like a prisoner. Here you were, now in a career where you are to protect and serve. You're around people who are imprisoned, and then now here you were, career being one thing, but real life feeling just like the very people that you see inside the jail cells each day. While they're in
Yes.
for crimes, you're in for something on a much deeper level, but the feeling is
Yes.
kind of the same. That feeling of confinement, that feeling of trapped, that feeling of
Yes.
locked in and can't get out. Like, what do I do with this? Here I am again. What do I do with that? So, with that said, if you would, now you're in this second round, another
Yeah.
relationship that you've given a chance on, it's abusive. How does this thing turn out where you ultimately get to a point where you're seeing some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of that? How does this play out
Yeah.
now that you find yourself back at it once again? Unfortunately, what does that
Yes.
look like in your story? If you could share with that with us.
Well, what it looked like is that in feeling, I kind of spoke of wanting to be everything to be perfect and right in my life, though the signs were there, and I jumped into the marriage, even hearing my mom's voice saying, pray about it. Maybe you should wait. Because I did it anyway, I felt guilty because it wasn't even a good month before the abuse started. And uh, he was also a police officer. So again, we were aligned. I wanted to be a police officer. He was already a police officer. He's a Christian. All of these things aligned. And almost immediately, I was still living in Lubbock, Texas. And when we got married, we moved to Dallas, Texas, um, and so it gave me the opportunity to become the police officer that I wanted to be. The abuse, he made really good money. He was a police officer at several police departments, and he had made his way up to the top, and so he had good money. And he bought a house. I'll take you. I want you to have this nice house, and look what I have. Well, my boys stayed behind while I lived to get this house built, and then they were to come. And the abuse had already started before the boys even got there. And so the mask, though it didn't serve me in protecting me, against the predator, um, I had to put it back on for them. Here we are. House is brand new. I've never been able to provide this for them. They came. They were already claiming their rooms. I got this one. It had stairs. They were upstairs. We had a media room. We had a game room with a pool table, and just seeing their little faces, they were just they were just so lit up. And so I put on the mask of, yeah, boys, we did it, boys. We did it. We made it. And yeah, and things were going great. And so this went on of me, uh, the abuse was continuing. The abuse continued, especially when he knew that he wasn't to discipline the boys. One time he whooped them. They got bad grades, and he was gonna be, I'm the dad. He took them upstairs, stripped off all their clothes, and began to beat them with a belt for a long time. And they came out, they had welts on their body, and I knew. And so I told him then, you're to never touch them again. And so in protecting them, I absorbed all the abuse. I took it on myself. And so the abuse would happen behind closed doors. And then I would, like I did when I was 7, I would go in the bathroom, clean up, put on that happy face, and hey, boys, who wants pizza? Who wants to go to the movies? And this is something I did consistently. Uh, the beatings would happen. Since he was a police officer, he knew where to hit me and hide the bruises, and in the back of the head, sometimes my upper arms, my back would be covered, and I would just come out with a happy smile, and thinking the boys were none the wiser. And it continued for many years. We're going through high school. We're the perfect couple to everyone else. We went to all the boys' track meets and football games, and me and him are up there cheering, and we're high fiving, and all of that, because he was a narcissist, and he wanted the trophy family and the ideal. And so he would buy new things all the time. After a beating, he would buy big things. I'm gonna buy you a car. The worse the beating, the better the prize, so to speak, to lure me back in, and the I love yous and I'm sorry, and or it got to a point where I would leave the house. He would throw me out the house. Get out, get out. I would tell the boys, okay, it's mom's gonna take you out to a hotel. And they'd be like, why, mom? Why are we going to a hotel? Because it's Mother and Son Day. I'm taking y'all to a hotel. We're getting a hotel. And when we would come back home, my husband would be in the kitchen cooking. Hey, where y'all been? Y'all come in here and eat. Like it never
Like never
happened.
happened. Yeah.
Never happened. It was just night and day. And ultimately, this happened. The boys graduated high school. It was time for them to go to college. He made a arrangement where the boys would go to college in Wisconsin, way away. And he always wanted to go back to Houston where he was born and raised. I want to go to Houston. Well, in this time frame, I'm kind of for the sake of time, I don't want anyone to I don't want to lose anyone because it's very important. But
No, you're good.
ultimately, I became that police officer. During that time of me becoming a police officer, my abuse got worse. Every time I tried to, that I advanced in life, or I was looks like I'm my abuse got worse. And so in the academy, the police academy, I had to run. We had to do this final run, and um, he had cut my throat the night before. He hid my clothes so that we had to come dressed, in our police attire. He hid it. I got up and asked him, "Have you seen my uniform?" And he began to. He wouldn't tell me. I was looking around for it, and I found it. It was in the back of his car. I don't know what made me think. Thank you, Jesus, because he really led me. I said I found it, and when I did, he began to beat me, and he threw me out of the house. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. I was prepared to go to the police academy. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. He pushed me out the door, and I began to beat on the door. And the boys came downstairs, "Mom, mom!" And I was crying. It was the first time they realized that I knew that they realized something was wrong. And I could hear him yelling, "Go upstairs. Nothing's wrong. Get upstairs." And he came out the house and began to chase me. And I was running backward, running, and I tripped. And when I did, he got on top of me, and with his fingernails, he cut my throat. And so deep, he dug in that the skin laid open like a flap.
Hmm.
And he said, now, because that day I was supposed to run, and I was supposed to get sprayed with the OC spray. It was part of, you get sprayed, and I went to the academy, and that was the first time I ever admitted. I went into the my superior's office, and I said, "I'm being abused," and she saw the flap of skin, and she said, "We're not going to make you go through this. You don't have to get sprayed." And I said, I'm going to go through it because he told me that I couldn't. He told me I was not going to make it. I'd never make it in a man's world. I said, so I'm going to do everything that everybody else does. And I remember I got ready. They began to spray me. The spray was running down my face, burning. My eyes were closed. It was running down my neck. There was blood in this. I was just in tears, and I completed it. I did the run. He had, he'd broken my foot, and so my ankle was shattered, and I ran. I ran. My foot was swollen, and I finished, and I became a police officer. And so when the boys were graduating, this all happened within the same year as the boys were graduating. Um, I had planned on leaving him. I got my independence. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. He didn't know it. It's important, ladies. Never let the left hand know what the right hand is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them know your plans. I'm leaving you, and you. It's just best not to say anything. Make your plans and be silent about it. And so I just made a plan. But he came to me because he knew that he knew what to say. He said, "You know what? God told me that I've wronged you, and I'd like to ask you to forgive me. And God told me that we need to go to Houston, and I'm gonna get my life right. We're gonna find a church. The boys are in college, so we don't have them to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start again. God said, you know, when man he quoted so many
Mm-hmm.
scripture, and I went to Houston, and I did. I lost my police career. I left police behind. He said, Houston's dangerous. You don't want to be a police officer here. He did not want me in any position of authority like this, or with a lot of men. So when we got there, I became a parole officer um, and there was no abuse, not much. There were times when it was tense, and I thought, but he held it together, and about 9 months of being there. It was my birthday in September. My birthday was 4 days. We were 4 days from my birthday, and he came in. He came in the room. He woke me up. He had a cup of coffee. And I woke up and he was sitting there, and I said, what's wrong? He said, good morning. He said, I just wanted to bring you some coffee, let you know that I'm going to take you out for your birthday. Later on, after I watch the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to take you out for your birthday. But I just wanted to wake you up and, with a cup of coffee and a kiss. And I was laying there thinking, wow, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Wow. You know, it's going to be all right. Thank you, Lord. Well, I got that coffee. I came out. The football game was about to start. He sat on the couch. The way it was situated is we had a computer desk. And so I said, well, while you're watching the game, I'm going to work on my book. I started writing a book. And I said, I'm going to start doing this book and try to make a book cover for it. So he's over there, you know, I could hear him watching the game and cheering for the game. And I'm on the computer working, and I hit a button. And I thought I had erased everything. And uh, I noticed he wasn't cheering for the game. I kept saying, oh no, oh goodness. And I turned around to look at him, and he wasn't looking at the game. He was just staring at me like he had been staring at me. I said, what's going on? What are we losing? Like, what's, you know, just joking with him. He didn't say anything. So I started like trying to retrieve it. I'm hitting other buttons. My computer's acting up. And I just kind of like, oh, he jumped off that couch and he ran over to me and he just began to yell, what do you, I told you I would help you. We would do things after the game. And he punched me in the side of my head. And I fell out the chair and I said, what's wrong with you? What's going on? And he just began to throw things. Like it was like Jekyll and Hyde. Very sweet that morning. He turned on a dime and he began to beat me like a man. I was on the ground. I was defending myself, and that's when he came behind me, and he began to try to break my neck. And so he put his arm around my neck and began to twist as hard as he could, but he couldn't. It wouldn't work. He grabbed my hair and he began to like pull me. It felt like I was being scalped, and I'm screaming. Then he grabbed it and just began to twist my head, just twist. I could hear the bones in my neck cracking, and I was just, I knew that I was about to die. And as he's twisting, and he's just grabbing and turning around with all his might, um, I remember, my body relaxed, and I said, Lord, this is the way I'm gonna die. I said, and no one's ever going to find my body because he's a police officer. And he used to always tell me when we would watch those crime shows, oh, they're so stupid. I would have known how to hide that body. I said, and all that flashed. And I said, they're never going to find my body. And my kids are in college, and no one knows where I live yet. No one really knew my address. Everybody knew I lived in Houston, but no one knew where. And all that ran through my mind, and I just began to relax and accept that I'm going to die. And Lord, please let me be with you in heaven. And in that moment, something said, tuck your chin into your chest and fall over on your side in the fetal position. And I did. I tucked my chin, and I began to lay over like a baby. And when I did, his grip loosened, and he ran in the back room, and he went to get his gun. And I was laying there. I could hear him opening the gun cabinet. I could hear him with the gun. And I jumped up immediately off the floor. And I had a habit of hiding things where I could find it. I hid my purse in the kitchen in a pot because if an abusive episode was going to happen, he would hide my keys or hide my phone. I couldn't find things. So I got in the habit of hiding my purse in a pot in the kitchen so that if anything happened, I jumped up, I went right for my purse, and I ran out the door. And that would be the last time that I was abused. And um, I ended up sleeping away from the house. I got up and went to work the next morning, and I was explaining to them, um, my husband tried to kill me, and as I said that, I fainted and fell to the floor. And they were able to call the police. He was arrested. They took him to jail. The jail called me. They said he will bond out in 48 hours. He's going to get out in 48 hours. And I knew I only had, just a short time to pack. I went home, and everything that I could put in my car, I did. And he called me. He was able to call from the jail. He said, I'm not mad. I just want to let you know I'm not mad at you. He said, but could you go to the restroom? I got a credit card. He said, and can you pay the bail bondsman, and then they'll let me come home. I'm not mad. When I get home, we'll talk about everything. God has really been revealing a lot to me. And I said, okay, yeah, okay. And I got my keys and I drove, and that was the last time that I saw him. And so uh, it was just such a pivotal moment as I just drove down the highway. It's a 5 hour drive, 5 or 6 from Houston to Dallas. And I was just crying and just thanking God because he didn't have to wait for that moment. He could have killed me anytime. He had always had a gun. I was there alone with him. He always had that motive that he was going to kill me. And at any time, at any God, you know, forgive me, forgive me. So sorry, but
No, you're fine.
um, oh God, when God is speaking, or sometime when we get that that unction, I thought I was going to save up money because I wanted to make sure that financially, when the boys came back, I could have a money for a new apartment, and I could start over fresh. I was pinching back money, thinking that that moment would come, and in doing so, that moment of saving up money so I could have it all together almost didn't happen, and I almost lost my life. And I was just so grateful that I was able to leave and leave that prison only to go to another prison, which is the one in my mind.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if you want to jump in there. That's just another part of the story that was the turning point for then my success.
You know the what I'm as you're telling this story, I'm thinking, I'm I'm just trying to play this out in my mind. Just um, not so much out of surprise or shock. I mean, this is clear just because um, knowing who God is and how He operates. This was a complete God move, and what I'm hearing you say, and as I'm analyzing just the whole story that you've shared so far, is that you had to go through this not because again it was about being mistreated or anything of that nature, or abused or anything like that. It was this was a moment of, when do I trust God rather
Hmm.
than me trying to take on the role of God, with me taking on the role of trying to fix.
Yes,
Like you
yes,
just mentioned how you had been planning about, I'm gonna save up some money and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna map this thing out. Me and the boys, we're gonna make our break away from all this, and everything's gonna be fine because I have enough money to get the part. And on paper, what you say makes sense.
yes,
Anybody with logic, if you presented this situation to them, they would say that totally makes sense. Save up your money, be quiet about it, and then pick your right time. But then God put you in a situation where you couldn't you couldn't do all of that in that moment. I mean,
yeah,
and here you were, like you said, literally on the brink of death. Like it's happening. This is imminent.
yes,
This is about to happen. And something as simple as tuck your chin in your chest and then fall down into a fetal position. When you think about the different stories of the Bible where just almost the most, what seems to be the most random of things to do in
right,
what otherwise is a otherwise insurmountable moment. Like, how does that happen? It's like, you think about the Bible, and the man who can't, that's blind, and you say, well, rub some mud on your
right,
eyes, and then ta-da,
right,
you see. Just do something. It sounds like that. Like,
right,
okay, if all of he didn't tell you to turn around, grab him behind, things that you probably have even learned even in law enforcement about how to get
right,
out of certain moves if you get attacked by somebody. What? None of
right,
that came into play. Was tuck your chin, fall over to a fetal position, and just lay there for a moment. And then what you didn't know, like you said, as you were sharing about how you got to a point where you began to strategically place stuff in secret places to where you knew where to grab it if you had to make a run for it.
yes,
Thinking smart in advance, on paper that made sense, but you
yeah,
probably never thought, played out, like, when would that exact moment happen and what would it look like? Who
right,
knew it would look like while I'm on the
right,
floor in a fetal position while he's in the back getting the gun out the gun cabinet, that I was gonna have
right,
enough time to jump up off the floor, go to
oh,
my secret spots, make it outside the house, jump in the car and pull off. Oh, and then he had the audacity to call you from prison to say, could you get the credit card along the way? Sure can, but it's not going to be for the reason that you think I'm getting it for. But thanks anyway. The fact that God even orchestrated that for him to be
right,
in a moment, have a moment of, what do we call it? Stupidity, senselessness, or
mm-hmm.
whatever, to say, to tell you where to find the card that you clearly needed at the
Right,
time to make
right,
this trip. You know, so
oh
again,
God,
it's almost like you can't make this stuff up.
right,
It almost sounds unbelievable, but when you understand how God moves, there's
right,
there's nothing unbelievable about it at all. It happened exactly like that. There's no question
yes,
in my mind. I'm not sitting here listening to your story and saying she just lying. I'm not
right,
feeling that because I understand that you know who God is, you know how He operates, you're in relationship with Him, and for our listeners, this is why the relationship with Him is so important, because what
yes,
seems to be abnormal, weird, strange, odd to the world is just everyday stuff
yes,
with Him. That's just how He moves, and He could
oh,
take, again, the most simplest, minute, fractional of things or moments, and make a miracle out of it, which exactly is what happened with you. The miracle of you even still being alive, the miracle of you even being able to sit here and tell this story,
yes,
still
yes,
being in your right mind.
thank you,
All
Jesus.
of that just does not happen by chance. This is
No,
not TV. This
right,
this is,
right,
so that's what makes your story powerful. There's a lot of people who've gone through, abusive situations, and many who didn't live to talk about it.
no,
But it looks different when you go through tragic moments like that. but then there's God in the picture, because it's
Yes.
no matter how rough, how crazy, how out of sorts it may seem to be, as long as you are in relationship with him, as long as you know that he's present, there's always a way out. It's just a
Yes.
matter of, do I choose to do it on my own terms, or do I choose to trust him to
Mm,
get me through what is otherwise, what again on paper seems like there's just no way. You done
right.
gave this man too many opportunities to kill you.
Yes.
Too many chances. There's no way you're gonna escape this. But here you
Yeah.
are. And
Wow.
so um again, I appreciate you sharing this, because it not one, because it's obviously it's a topic of great concern that both, we oftentimes, of course, primarily talk about women being in this situation, and there are even some men who are in similar situations, but
Yes.
so it's definitely a subject matter that we need to discuss, and we need to be able to do it in the format that we're doing it tonight, being vulnerable and transparent and saying, acknowledging the fact that, yeah, I gave some second chances and some third chances and some tenth and even some
Mm-hmm.
hundredth chances, gambling with my life, gambling perhaps even with the lives of my children. You know,
Yes.
I didn't do it because I was being a neglectful mom, or being quote unquote stupid or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I was doing what I thought was best for my kids. I'm
Yeah.
trying to give somebody the benefit of the doubt. You're tapping into the understanding of what it means to forgive people, and even in your time today, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I just the fact that you are in the state of being, in the state of mind that you are right now, lets me know that at some point, even with all that this man had done to you, that at some point you had to actually forgive him, just
Yes.
to heal, just to
Yes.
ignite the healing
Yes.
process. Because if you still were walking around in present day with all this hatred and unforgiveness and all that, you wouldn't be able to speak on this. You wouldn't be
Right.
able to be on stages. You wouldn't be able to write, but you wouldn't be able to have these conversations if that forgiveness
Yes.
hadn't kicked in. So it's evident to me, even without you verbally having said that, yeah, I forgave him. I can see it in you. I can see it on you,
Yes.
because of again, it's just if you want to call it, like I like to sometimes use, it's a godly swag about you, that you just
Yes.
that says that I'm not perfect, but I'm perfect in Him. I
Yes.
don't always make the right decisions. I don't always do the make the best choices, but as long as He's there, He has a way of kind of smoothing out those rough edges. When
That's
I
it.
fall down, He's right there, not to mock me, not to ridicule me, but to extend His hand to pick me up, to dust me off, and let me know you're gonna be good. It's all
Mm.
right. I know this was hard, but you still here, right? You still upright. You still in your right mind. We're good. Don't worry about it. I still got you. I
Yes.
haven't gone anywhere. But you had to go through this, one, for
Yes.
your own personal spiritual growth, but also I'm equipping you for what's to come ahead down the road, that you
Yes.
haven't, the better days, the other side of this. And so this is where you are on the other side of it. And so I truly do appreciate you sharing this, because this is, again, not just for the sake of the subject matter, but just a powerful story
Yes.
about what it truly means. And I don't know if you paid attention to the title of our episode for this evening. This is what freedom feels like. If
Oh,
you
wow.
this is what it feels. Her story
Yes.
aligns with that. If you
Yes.
haven't picked that up by now, this is what her story aligns. This is what freedom feels like. It's not about I broke free from an abuser. It's about
Yes.
a freedom that you can only get in a relationship with God. This
That's
is
right.
deeper than just getting away from that bad person, that bad situation, that bad condition. This is deeper than that. It's on a whole nother level. This is what true freedom feels like, when you
Yeah.
know that there's nothing too big for God to handle. I don't care what it is, how crazy it seems. No, nothing. It's a freedom like no other. And
That's
so
right.
your story is a testament to what the show is about this evening. So again, I appreciate that, and this is not by accident that it's lining up just
Yes.
like that. So this is not a script. This is this is
Right.
this is this is this is reality TV, but in the right way.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
we're sharing here. So this is good stuff. Good stuff. So so Katrina, if obviously you've shared some very heavy stuff tonight, and
Yes.
and sometimes storms can get heavy just like that.
Right.
But then truth is that sometimes life is just life, and we just have daily, nuances and annoyances, if you will. We talked about that before the show started for our
Yes.
listeners. Talking about crazy happenings of the day, running behind, traffic. It could be a number of different things that go
Right.
on in your life. So, but with that said, I am curious to know whether you're dealing with something major like some of the stuff that you talked about, or if it's just day to day lifing type stuff. What is it that you personally like to do that kind of helps you, process through those challenging moments? If it's just one of those days that
Yeah.
stuff is going on, things are crazy. What is it? What's kind of your routine, your regimen? What does that look like for you as to how you process through that in a healthy and a productive way?
Yeah, like you said, it happens, and sometimes things are dangled back before your eyes, and so what I do, I practice gratitude. Gratitude. If I have the worst day, I learned to do this gratitude thing. So I will go and purposely go meet a stranger, somebody I don't know. I may go to a convenience store or Starbucks, and I will pour gratitude into someone. I will first, I will tell them, I was having the worst day, and I came in, and your beautiful smile made my day. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate what you do to make everybody's coffee, or you're. It's. I'm just so grateful for you today, and I will just pour this gratitude. And used to, I would think I'm pouring from an empty cup, and sometimes it feels like we pour from an empty cup. But I will do this, and it is like a download that when I pour out gratitude, God, God reminds me of all the things to be grateful for. Yes, you may have been late. Yep, I don't have any money in the bank, and I will go purposely and do something like that. I practiced gratitude, and it was something that I practiced. After leaving that abusive situation, I'd actually contemplating taking my life, and the moment I got ready to take my life, I had already got the rope, put it in my closet, and made sure it was going to hold me. And the last thing I was going to do is I made a Facebook post, and on that Facebook post, I was just urging the women, if you're in this situation, get out, kind of say the same thing I was saying. Don't let your partner know what you're doing. Move in silence. Have this plan. And when I got off the Facebook post, I was going to go in and hang myself. And as soon as I walked into my apartment, um, my phone began to ding, 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 and I was like, "What's happening?" People were texting me, messaging, sending thing messenger. Hey, I'm going through this. What? How do I get out? They're just, oh my goodness. So I sat down and I started answering their text messages, and I did that literally all day. And when I got through, my fingers were sore, and I sat down. I was like, "Woo! I was supposed to do something." And I sat there, and my eyes looked towards the closet, and I said, "I forgot to kill myself." And in that moment, I looked up and I said, "God, for just one day," I said, "Okay, since I didn't kill myself, one day, God, I'm going to be grateful, and I'm going to give it 100%. I'm going to be grateful for everything." And after that, that's it. I'm just giving you one more day. That's me. I'm giving God one more
Mm-hmm.
day. But when I woke up, at first it was comical. "Oh, thank you. I'm grateful. I got up and walked to the bathroom. I'm grateful." And but I said, "No, you said 100%. So give it like you gave everything else." And I just began to be grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm gonna make it to work on time. I am grateful. I have a job to go to. Everything. And I wrote down when I got to work. I wrote down everything I ever wanted to be. Lord, if I had lived, I was thinking of myself as if I was already dead. Lord, had I lived, if I had lived, these are the things I would have wanted to be in life. I would have wanted to be an actress. I've always wanted to be on TV. And I would love to be a speaker. I would have loved to have told others about how to get out of these situations. And I just wrote down, it was a long list of things I wanted to happen. And I said, I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that I get to be those things. And every one of the things I wrote down, I became with no experience whatsoever. I got my first role in acting. A woman had a movie about an abusive situation, and I auditioned for the abused woman because I knew that life, and I played it so convincingly that I got the role. It wasn't even a speaking role, it was all action. And from then, I met someone who said, "Hey, I know of another movie, and I know of another movie." And for 2 years straight, I was in a movie that I never auditioned for. I never auditioned. I never had acting classes. It's just something I wrote down. And so write it down, make it plain, speak it as though it is. And when I did those things, that's why I at the start of the show I said TV producer, TV and film. I'm a talk show host, and now I host a show where I talk to people about challenges they've been through and how they have pushed forward. Caught on the Hook is the name of my show, and I'm an author. I wrote those 2 books, and I got those degrees, and everything I wrote, I became. And the more grateful I became, the more things happened for me, and the more things happened, I was like, "This is real. It's working." And that has happened for this past 10 years. That I told God I was going to give Him one day, and one day has now turned to 11 years, and I am so grateful, and that I continue to do that on my worst days. And things aren't always peachy. I don't want people to think, "Oh, the birds are always flying around my head," and I'm smiling. But now I remember when I have a bad day, and I do, and sometimes money's not in the bank. And I say, "Lord, I thank you. Lord, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful." And I pour that into people. And whether they people, I don't have to be a people pleaser anymore. Now I aim to please. I do. I'm a
Mm.
people pleaser, but it's because I've taken on the characteristics of my father, and this is what he expects of me. I don't have to put on. I don't have to be a clown. I don't have to. I don't have to please, but I am here to serve. I am still protecting and serving. I'm doing the will of God, and so it's just been.
Wow.
That's how it happened. It's just a blessing. It really is.
I love that. I love that. Because like you said, the gratitude piece is so important. I mean, here you are. I I'm thinking God is saying, I got you out of a life threatening situation. You get
Right.
away, and you talking about taking your life after I
Right.
saved your life.
Oh,
You know, so
yes.
uh, and we again we've been guilty of that. We've had those moments where we've been like, Lord, if you just get me out of this, if I could just only find a way to get out of this, I promise I'll do this. I'll be better. Whatever that is. And we get out of it, and then without even thinking, if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves right back in a similar situation all over again. And so with that said, I mean the gratitude is so important. And when we talk about in this particular segment about healthy ways to deal with challenging situations, um, that gratitude is so critical because you take the focus off of it being about you.
Right.
Um, let
Right.
me instead of me complaining about why I'm in this moment that I'm in, instead of me, moaning and groaning and woe is me and all of that, let me focus on what is going well, the things that I should be thankful and appreciative of. The fact that despite this day that was a rough day for me, what I'm thankful for the fact that I was able to wake up this morning and in my right
Yes.
mind and with a roof over my head and clothes in my closet and food on my shelf and transportation in my garage. I'm thankful that I
Yes.
had a job to go to. I'm thankful that I'm in relatively good health and good spirits. Yeah, it sucked that today this happened, and it
Right.
was annoying that this situation went down, and then that person that always gets on my nerves got on my nerves
Right.
today.
Right.
But in comparison to all that is good, this is really nothing. It's really trivial. It's really
Yes.
minimal. And for my listeners, when I say this, that doesn't mean that you don't have a right to feel some kind of way when
Right.
things are going wrong, it's just one of those rough days, you're still a human being. You
That's
have a
right.
right to be frustrated, annoyed, maybe even sometimes shed a tear or two because it's
Yes.
just a bit overwhelming. It's not that that's a problem. It only becomes problematic when you allow yourself to drown in that, when you allow yourself to get
Right.
stuck in that.
Yes.
Have your moment, get it out, but then fix your face, pull it
Mm-hmm.
together, and then say, okay, Lord, where do you want me to go with this?
That's
What do I need to do? And when you exercise day to day a spirit of gratitude, um, God, of course, he ain't gonna let you outdo him. He's gonna show
right.
you his gratitude to you for being faithful, for being not making it about you, for you taking on, carrying your cross, and dealing
Yes.
with what you're dealing with. And he's a, you know what, good son, good daughter. Let me show you how we gonna work this out. I'm
Right.
not only am I gonna work it out, I'm gonna work it out even better than what you even thought it was gonna work out. You was just asking for this.
Right.
Treat me like I'm little G and I'm big G. Let me show you what you about. God, if I could only act, I would just love to try that. You know what? I'm gonna let you try, but I'm not gonna let you get a one chance to do it. I'm gonna give you a couple of years in a row to do it. And guess what?
Yes.
You ain't gonna even have to audition for it. They're just gonna pick you because you belong to
Agree.
me. They know who you are, and it's just gonna happen. That's how
Yes.
that's gonna. Oh, you mean I'm gonna play a role of an abused woman? How
Hmm.
can I go through something like that? Yeah, I might have been a good fit in terms of because I've been through that, but it's it still hits different when you have personal experience and when you're playing a role. But you
Yes.
had to equip me for this because you understood this wasn't just a movie. This was an opportunity for
Right.
me to pour into other people. Even the night that you
Right.
said that you were the day that you said you were thinking about killing yourself. It's like let me. I compel you to put a post out there and to get your mind off of what you thought you was about to do, you're getting ready to pour into people in one of your
Mm.
darkest moments. You about to take your life and you talk and I'm gonna position you with people who probably thinking the same thing. You don't know how many
Yes.
lives you may have saved just in your fingertips off of
Mm.
a Facebook post.
Wow. Wow.
And they had no idea that you was on the verge of
About to
taking
do.
your own.
Right.
But here
Right.
you are, but then God would use a person who was about to take their own life
Mm.
to minister to people who are going through a similar situation or maybe the same situation.
Wow.
I'm gonna put you in a position to save lives in the moment that
Yes.
you're trying to take your own.
Mm.
And then after
Wow.
all of that, you had the audacity to say, "I'm gonna give you one more.
I'm gonna do
I'm gonna give
this.
you one more
I'm gonna do.
time." Okay, you
Oh.
trying me, but I'm
Right.
gonna play along. I'm gonna play along because I'm gonna show you. But by the time we're done with this, I'm gonna show
Right.
you that instead of you trying to challenge me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna show
Oh,
you instead to just trust me.
I'm so glad he's patient.
You're testing my patience today, but you know what? I'm gonna ride with you because
Oh
you're my daughter and
goodness.
I love you like that. So we gonna do this. I'm gonna play
Right.
along with you. Now you gonna keep on. Now, I can
Right.
show you better than I can tell you, but
Right.
I'm gonna work with you because I know you close. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get
Right.
you over the hump. So that once you get there, you're gonna be unstoppable from that point
That's
forward. And
right.
that's exactly what you're doing. Yes, as you stated, and I'm glad you did. That's not to say that life is perfect and that you never go
Right.
through anything. A relationship with Christ does not promise that to be
Right.
the scenario. If anything, you should
Right.
probably expect the heat to turn up a little bit more
Exactly.
because there's an enemy that's out there that doesn't like the fact that you have made this commitment, this
Yeah.
this relationship that you're in, and you also are going to get tested because again, it's about further developing you spiritually so that you can be used in more
That's right.
expansive ways to again pour into the lives of others, do the works that God has created for you to do. So it's kind of a combination of the two, that
Yes.
comes with it, but it's worth it because of what you get out of it. It's not
Yeah.
you're not going to lose in this situation. Yes, you will
Yeah.
have moments where you're maybe experience some discomfort. You will have some moments that maybe you'll experience some inconvenience, but I think you can
Mm-hmm.
tolerate that when you know whose team you're on, when you know what they're
Right.
capable of doing for you and through you. That makes the little bit of trouble that it may have caused me, the little bit of inconvenience that it may have caused me, for me to be able to tolerate that and be
Right.
okay with it without complaining, but instead the gratitude that you spoke of. So
Yes.
that's really a big piece, and I'm glad you highlighted that. So for anybody
Yeah.
that doesn't currently have a regimen or a routine, if you will, of dealing with difficult and challenging times, that's
Yes.
an excellent starting point. Is focus on the gratitude first before you
Mm-hmm.
start focusing so much energy on the complaining.
Yes.
How about you take a moment to be grateful and thankful and appreciative,
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't have to have this. You didn't even have to wake up this morning.
Yes.
Nobody promised you
Yes.
that. Nobody promised you that. Let's get out of this whole expectancy of thinking, or
Mm-hmm.
though I should say entitlement mindset. Let's
Right.
we're not entitled to anything.
Right.
So, and you need to know whose it belongs to anyway to begin with.
That's
Everything
right.
around you, everything in this world, none of it is yours. It belongs to Him.
No.
He just
No.
allows us to steward certain things that He gives us to manage, and even then, He expects us to manage it in a way that is in alignment with how we're supposed to
Yes.
do it. And when we get out of line with that, when we get out of sorts with that, that's when
That's right.
problems and troubles lurk. That's when we run the risk of having things taken away from us because we're not operating in a mature spiritually, a spiritual mature way to handle it the right way. So
Right.
that's one time we got to get corrected. We got to get checked. We got to get. But again,
Mm-hmm.
when He
Yeah.
does it, it's not in an abusive way.
Right.
When he
Right.
checks us, it may sting a little bit, but it's not intended to take us out. It's not intended to
Exactly.
destroy us. It's a different you can receive it differently than again somebody thinking that it's okay to just be outright abusive and dominating because I just want to exert my power over you,
Mm-hmm.
my physical, girth over you, if you will. So it's
Yes.
a different kind of thing. It's a different again. This is what freedom feels like.
It feels,
So
oh, hallelujah.
that's what we're talking about here. So
Yes.
that's good stuff. So Katina, if you had the chance to sit across the table from the younger version of yourself, when you think back to Katina, who at one point didn't feel seen, didn't feel loved, didn't feel selected by
Yes.
people, the Katina who went through those abusive moments, even though you were trying your best to be that good, loving wife, mom, good person as a whole, but weren't getting reciprocated in the same way, even
Yes.
and things getting to the point where you even contemplated a moment in time to take your life.
Right.
If you could speak to younger Katina and impart some words of wisdom, some things that you think she could have benefited from had she known some of this stuff earlier on in life, what would you say to her, as well as to our listeners that maybe might be going through some of the things you talk about, maybe right there, right now, maybe even God forbid, but maybe even to the point that this show could be the difference between whether or not they feel
Yes.
better about their outlook moving forward, or whether they got a rope in the
Right.
closet waiting for this broadcast to end to say,
Right.
if this doesn't tell me something, if God don't speak to me in this moment, I'm checking out.
Right.
What would you say to the younger you? What would you say to anybody that's listening right now that may be going
Mm.
through a similar challenge in this moment?
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful, as a young girl learning how to put on that mask and to please others, or I was concerned about other people and how they would feel. We've heard the saying, "The world don't revolve around you," but in this sense, yes, it does, because it's about you. No, no one has the right at any time to make you feel like your worth is not valuable. That's if you're in an abusive relationship, a young girl in a dating situation, and I know these young relationships, they are becoming very dominant already. At a young age, even uh, junior high, and just know um, each of us have a purpose. And yes, the world does revolve around you because it's all about you. Had I realized that I didn't have to hold that for anybody, that that you are enough, I would have said, Tina, you're enough. You don't have to wear a mask. You don't have to go out and smile for the world to make them feel good, but make sure that you feel good first. There's the passage in the Bible, the Jabez prayer. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory. And that is not for us, a large, so that I can have a lot. It's so that we can pour into others, but we can't pour into others being uh, pleasers of man. God fills our cup. So when we realize we're enough and we heal and we're walking in our purpose, then you begin to overflow and that just pours into others. And so let no one take your power, your strength, make you shrink. You were not sent here to shrink. You were sent here for purpose. You were sent here to everybody in the world has a purpose. It's up to them what they do with it. Do you let somebody else dictate your purpose, or do you become free free mentally, spiritually, financially? Do you become free? Let no one dictate anything for you. You you pour into you because God is ready to do something in your life. I've had to cry. I've had to be grateful when I was losing my house and I lost it and I kept saying, "Yet, Lord, I trust you. Yet I trust you. Lord, I'm grateful." And the house was gone. I lost my home. And I said, "Yet I trust you." And I would cry and I would wonder, "Are you hearing me, God? I don't know." And I lost my job and I lost and I would say in tears and in agony, you just kept saying, do you trust me? And I was beginning to think, do I trust you? I just lost everything. And I would just cry and say, yet I trust you. And yet I trust you. And in those instances, so I don't want people to think, oh, she's got it together. She's doing great now. Because there have been times when there was only literally 89 cents in the bank and I didn't have anything. And I would think, okay, the heavens are gonna open. I'm gonna hit the lottery. Somebody's gonna say, "I got something for you," and that didn't happen. And the next day came, and the next day came, and there was still no money, and I had to go without. And I said, "Yet, Lord, I trust you. I am grateful." And I would cry and cry. It and God has just so don't feel discouraged when you think I prayed, I went to church, I changed, I wrote this gratefulness journal because I did a gratefulness journal. Things didn't happen, and that's the way it felt. Whoa, the rain down from heaven. Where is it? But when you stick to who you are, God begins to reveal himself in a way. And we don't have to take that from a man. We don't who promises money. Oh, you don't have any money? Come back home. You come back home. I got money. I got a house. You don't have to compromise because when God's glory shines on you, you stand in freedom. You realize who you are, and when you find out who you are, it far surpasses anything you would have got, you would have received here from earthly things. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to compromise. Stay the course. Stay the course. Someone told me that, Tina, stay the course. And I stay the course, no matter how much it hurts. I thought I was going to have to sleep in my car. And I said, God, I trust you. And boy, when I tell you, when God blesses, he blesses real good. He blesses us real good. And I stand. I stand. And if you don't have it within you to stand, that's what I'm here for. I'm standing with you. I stand in the gap. I'm grateful for you. And until others have the strength to do so, I stand in the gap. No man left behind. No woman left behind. That's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be. I will stand. And I just urge everyone to just stand. When you can't stand, crawl. When you can't crawl,
You can't
oh
crawl,
God,
go into a fetal position
go into a fetal position.
and
And that's
just
when God reminds you, I'm the Father.
mm-hmm,
I got you.
mm-hmm. Well said.
Woo! Wow.
Now we gotta play. Now we gotta pass around the plate. We gotta pass around.
All right, let's
You
pick
just
up the
preach the
offering now.
word. You can take up the offering. But no, that was definitely well said. Definitely
Thank
well said.
you.
A perfect way to cap off what has otherwise been a phenomenal journey, a phenomenal story that you've shared. Thank you so much for being so transparent, being so vulnerable, being so open. I had a good feeling that this was going to be an awesome time together, and you far exceeded
Oh,
any
thank
expectations I could have possibly had. You've been a blessing to me. You've been a blessing to my listeners. I appreciate you so much, and I'm glad we were able to make this connection and make this
Yes.
happen. Um, but with that said, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, I do want to take the opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to lift
Thank
you up. So if you got anything that's going on right now or coming up down the road, we want to hear all about it, how people can connect, support,
you. Yes.
experience, or just if nothing more, just keep you in their prayers as you're doing all these miraculous works that God is pouring into you and through you. So what do you
Yes.
have going on? What does Cortina Jackson got going on that we need to be on top of and plugging into and getting to be a part of in whatever way that looks like? What we got to look forward to with you?
Well, thank you so much for that opportunity. I would just ask definitely for your prayers. Definitely. As I stand in the gap for you, please let's touch and agree, for each other. So in 2026, I did a documentary on a young man. And so I want to do more documentaries and hear people's stories.
Hmm.
So I'm doing documentaries, and I have a talk show coming up, around the April-May timeframe, called On the Hook. I am looking for guests who are ready to tell their stories, the same way we're doing here on a talk show that's streaming on all of the OTT, the over-the-top platforms like Roku, Amazon, Apple, and also it's international. So we're live in Africa, and we're in Los Angeles on Got One channel, and we're on Connect to Your City everywhere. So I need guests who are ready to tell their story, and bless others. I also I'm doing a movie. I'm going to do another movie in 2026. I still do some acting, so I'm in a series called Cyber Psycho, which I play the detective. God bless the police career that I thought I'd lost. Now I get to play a detective on
Hmm.
TV. And so I have that coming up as well. More movies, more TV. God is just blessing. If anyone needs a commercial filmed, you want your documentary film, please connect with me at CortinaJackson.com. It's Cortina, Cortina Jackson. Uh, uh, .com, and visit me there, see all the wonderful things I'm doing. God is just blessing, and he didn't bless me. I do ask God to enlarge my territory. It's not for me, it is for you. I want to pour into anyone who's been abused, anyone who's had a challenge, anything. um, I want to bless by giving you the spotlight and you the media. um, uh, it's been therapeutic and healing for me to tell my story, and I want to afford that to others. So please pray for me. Please, 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 please keep me in your prayer. Bless Cortina Jackson.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you're definitely in my prayers. I'm excited for what God is doing with you, through you, both now and in the future. So I look forward to seeing more of that, and just how He's gonna again position you to be a blessing to so many people. Such a phenomenal woman of God that you are, and I'm
Yes,
pleased to
thank
have the opportunity to have officially met you, and we will definitely be following you along, and know that you always are welcome to be a guest on the show at any time. So
thank
don't feel
you.
like has to be a one-time thing, because this has definitely been a powerful time, and an excellent way to kick off our season 4 here at Blessings in the Streets podcast. So again, thank you so much for
Thank
being a part of
you.
this experience with us, and to my listeners, if you've enjoyed our conversation this evening, if you've enjoyed the broadcast, please subscribe, share, like, comment, because again, this is what Blessings in the Streets podcast is about. We want to be transparent, vulnerable, sharing our stories, our journeys, peeling back those layers, taking off the mask, not to put on a fake or front, but just keeping it real, letting you know that we all go through our challenges. Yours may not be mine, may not be yours, but everybody has something that they're dealing with. And sometimes those storms can get extremely heavy to the point where you don't see a way out. But in the end, no matter what that storm intensity looks like, there's a God out here who loves you unconditionally, who wants nothing but the best for you, and you need to be in relationship with him. You need to make that connection happen. And if that's something that you have not done up to this point, today is a mighty fine day to make that decision. Not telling you something that we heard, telling you something that we know from firsthand experience. If you didn't know anything beforehand, before now, Cortina's story should be definitely evidence of what a relationship with God looks like. And you may not have even gone through a fraction of what she shared tonight, but it doesn't even matter. He wants nothing but the best for us. He wants that bond. He wants that connection. So make it happen. He has enough unconditional love to share with everybody. That's what makes it unconditional. So it's not just for me. It's not just for Cortina. It's for everybody who wants to be a part of that. So definitely make that connection. And remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, you keep fighting that good fight, keep leaning into God, trusting Him, believing in Him, carrying that spirit of gratitude, even on those days where it's stormy and it's hard to have a lot to be happy and thrilled about. Still maintain that gratitude mindset, that gratitude lifestyle. It will not steer you wrong. It will not lead you astray. Know that God is there for you, wants nothing but the best for you. He loves you unconditionally. Connect, be locked in, and just watch Him not only bless you personally, but send blessings through you so you are equipped to be a blessing to so many others out there, both known and definitely unknown to you. So that's it. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye bye.